I think we should start as we've got a couple of people in here at the moment and more coming through.
Yep.
Yeah,
sounds good to
Phil.
me.
All right. So welcome everyone to the Sensei's first Ask an Expert webinar for 2026. So we've got a big topic today. It's the death of project online is here. Get your data out now. Next slide, please, Phil. Like usual, we have a few housekeeping. If you could please remain on mute throughout the presentation, that would be amazing. However, if you did have a question, just put it in the chat or raise your hand. We will be having a Q&A held at the end of the session, so you can we'll answer all your questions there. Otherwise, we've got a few experts looking at the chat and that will answer then. Additionally, the webinar is being recorded and there'll be follow-ups sent afterwards. So today we welcome Phil, our transition lead from Sensei, and a guest speaker, JP from Altus. I'll pass it over to you guys.
Great, thank you, Ellie, and welcome to today's session. My name is Phil Eilenberg, transition lead here at Sensei. I've spent the last 15 years helping organizations mature their product and portfolio management capabilities. And in the recent years, I've looked at focusing on guiding clients to transition from legacy platforms like Product Online onto modern PPM solutions. So today's session couldn't be more timely. This would be our second session, I guess, in this group, really enforcing the upcoming change that Microsoft will retire Product Online on 30 September this year. So it's creeping up. We know that any data left in the platform after that date will be permanently lost. So our goal today is to help you understand what that retirement means and the actions you need to take, and how to prepare for your organization's product information going forward. I am, of course, joined by JP, John Price, our Head of Customer Success over at Altus. JP and I were fortunate enough to start our PPM careers back together, back in a big government department. We put in Product Server, somewhat reluctantly from myself, but JP is an absolute guru in this tech, but it's been a long time since those days. But JP, over to you.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so very much have seen the warts and all of Project Server and Project Online. I actually remember when Project Online was first announced. So it's interesting to see that it's finally sort of come around to end of life. What I'm going to talk about in this session today is just briefly around how we're assisting customers and partners to move from Project Online and into Altus and some of the tooling that we've got available, and also what's going to be available in the product beyond, purely the Project Online capability as well. So stay tuned. I will drop in later on in the session to talk about that, and obviously we'll take plenty of your questions towards the end of the session.
Perfect. Thank you, JP. So I guess by the end of today's session, you will walk away with the clear practical steps on planning transition with confidence and the options available to you. The title does sound a little dramatic, but we've said internally we have to turn up the heat to make sure everyone is very, very well aware that Microsoft Product Online is dying this year, and so we do need to prepare for that. So I'll give you a quick rundown on the background of Microsoft PPM tools. We did this in the last session, so I'll keep this quite brief, but it is quite useful in the session today to provide context on certainly the Product Server option and where that came through. We will lay out the transition options that you have, the migration away from Product Online and your options there. We'll touch on if you are a current Altus user and you still have Product Online connectors, what that means for you, and then I'll lay out a bit of a timeline for the transition activities as well. So hope that's everything you're expecting, and as Ellie and JP have mentioned, if you do have questions, make sure you do present them at the end, but we'll try and cover off everything in between. All right, so if we go all the way back to where this kind of started, we did start with Product Server back in the day. The key focus of Product Server was just to give you a way to capture product schedules, Microsoft Product Desktop schedules, and pull them into a server so you had access to that scheduled data in a central repository. That was the key point, the key focus. There was no other way to grab information from each of your PMs and each of their schedules and report on that centrally. So Microsoft provided a server to do that. And then from there started adding pieces, the PPM functionality around that. We've got resourcing and financial controls, and then things like risk and issue registers in SharePoint and so on. So I guess as we do go through the session today, we're going to come back to Product Server as a migration option. So good to note that where it started and the initial expectation from Microsoft was just to give us a central server to pull that schedule information together. From there, the natural progression was to move from a physical server to a cloud-based solution. So they presented Product Online, hence, and the main focus of our topic today, users of the Product Online tool. This has obviously had a good lifespan from 2015 through to 2026, but we now see that retirement date coming up in September this year. So the change from Product Server to Product Online is much the same functionality. There are a few slight differences, but really gives you the same functional parity between the two solutions. Product Online is giving you that cloud solution that gave you easy access and easy end user login. It maintains the same suite of PPM functionality. It's always been stated that Microsoft gave us building blocks, and they continue to do that. So what Sensei provided was then the configuration of a PPM tool using the building blocks that Microsoft gave us. To start with, this was our Jumpstart solution. We created a fully configured version of Product Online that you could use out of the box rather than configuring it from scratch every time. So we did a fair few amount of deployments and implementations of Product Online and got the feeling of what was generally required and generally requested. And to that point, we were able to develop a pre-packaged solution that we could deploy that was a fully functional version of Product Online to use out of the box. This was still only using Product Online and what it had available. We added in a SQL server behind the scenes just to give us a bit more control and access to product information, but really it's still focused on Product Online configurations of a tool that Microsoft gave us. Beyond that, we saw the Power Platform come into play. So 2018, we started to add in Canvas apps, and this is where we start to see that transition from PPM being just a single tool, that Power Product Online tool, to now encompassing a whole range of your Microsoft 365 suite. So our Power Platform introduced Canvas apps on top of Product Online, but still we were relying on the grunt and the engine behind the scenes of the Product Online tool to do much of the functionality. We just added some nice front ends and a bit more usability for our end users to help with data entry and product updates during the week. The Canvas apps were very useful to give us more control and more flexibility in the functionality we provided on top of Product Online, but still noting the backend was very much reliant on the Microsoft product, the backbones that were Product Online at that point in time. That's very different from our switch to Altus. So with the growth of the Power Platform and Microsoft's roadmap, focusing on Power Platform as the way forward and our future toolset, we've now switched to Product Online being the backbone of our solution to now being, I guess, a periphery tool that we can use with it. So Altus is, as JP will run through later in the session, Altus is built on a model-driven app within the Power Platform. We use the building blocks that Microsoft provide us to build up a PPM capability. This now leverages all the licensing that you have within Microsoft 365. So we start to see Power BI come in as reporting. We get to use Teams and SharePoint and Outlook still. The key difference here is now we, rather than reliant on Product Online with one scheduling tool, we can now use any execution tool we need. So we'll have a look at what Planner means and the integration of Planner, the continued use of Microsoft Product Desktop. We understand that there is no change to the Product Desktop software package at this point in time. It will continue, so we can continue to leverage that very mature scheduling functionality for Product Desktop and align that with Altus as part of the toolset. So to note here, the transition we saw coming with the upcoming end of life of Product Online and made that conscious switch to base our platform on the Power Platform, Microsoft's future roadmap, and to move away from Product Online early. So to this point, we've seen this coming, have prepared for it, and now we'll provide you an option to transition from Product Online into Altus. So I will touch on the 3 migration options that we have seen Microsoft promote. I will open the door for the discussion around Microsoft Project Server Subscription Edition. I'll run through the details of that and allow that as certainly a conversation, and we can discuss what that implies. There's Planner as an option, and again, we'll discuss the details of where a Planner solution might fit into your organization. And then I will note that we obviously have some bias towards presenting Altus as a migration option. However, throughout the session today, we'll provide reasoning why it is a beneficial solution to provide that high functionality, high maturity PPM tool. To find functional parity with your current tool set is likely going to be that Altus solution. And Microsoft does encourage this. It promotes the partners that they do have to fill that gap that they know they're leaving. So there is a reliance on tools like Altus within their future roadmap. So to jump straight in, Project Server. So I mentioned we're going all the way back to a 2002 tool. So we are jumping a long way back here. Just to note, the Server Subscription Edition is the same tool behind the scenes. It's still just Project Server that we are delivering or utilizing. It's just a subscription offering that Microsoft now provide. The understanding is that we are going backwards in tool sets, so away from that cloud platform to an on-prem solution, noting that we can use Azure, of course, but it is an on-prem offering for Project Server. And so just to run through some of the details of that, this is what a migration might look like. I will be very transparent that I know very little about what this means, but I've been told this is the technical steps that are required to deploy and migrate through from Product Online, I guess, backwards to Product Server. So you'll need to have users from intra-domain services or local Active Directory. We need to recommend the number of servers and hardware specs up front. This is one big point of differentiation, that Product Online scaled with your use, whereas Project Server doesn't. So a bugbear that we used to have is you do have to forecast or predict your usage of the Project Server tool. If it's going to be a number of users or number of projects, you may, with a Product Online environment currently available, it might be have a good grasp on what that usage looks like day to day, but you do have to forecast what your usage will look like over the period you're planning to use Project Server. You have to install SQL Server software, install SharePoint Server Subscription Edition, and then configure your Project Server Subscription Edition PWA. Now, just to note, this is the part that Sensei can help you with. This previously had been our bread and butter, doing Project Server and then Product Online configurations. There are a few people around who still know how to do this, and it's a point that I'll note is that there is limited knowledge or expertise left in this area, because we are going considerably far back in technology stacks. But this is the part that Sensei could certainly help you out with in reconfiguring your Project Server, Project Web App environment to match or to closely align to what you currently have configured. Then your IT team will need to patch software, open firewall ports, determine DNS domain names to be used, open SSL certificates, determine if Office Online Server is required, and determine your desired reporting platform, noting you can connect directly to the SQL backend here and potentially still use your Power BI reports. But just to note, you would have to reconfigure any current reports to connect to a different data set moving forward, and of course, perform user testing. So it's not a light undertaking. We do understand it is a potential option for those who are very familiar with Project Online and require to maintain that functionality. However, it is worthwhile as a first step walking through these steps with your IT department just to make sure that this is a feasible undertaking, because it's most likely, and in the conversations I've had so far, the answer has been absolutely not. We can't facilitate these steps and this infrastructure. So it's very worth getting that done up front before we start any engagements towards data transition or data migration. So that's a quick overview of the Project Server option. Obviously, a lot more to unpack if you would like to dive into that conversation further, but just to note that this is an option there. Microsoft are providing it as a suggested solution. However, it would likely be similarly an interim solution, because if Product Online is dying, it's quite likely Project Server is going the same way. We don't know that, but that is a quite likely scenario. So then, of course, if that is the older version, and going backwards in technology, progressing forward in technology leads us towards Planner as a solution. So Planner been around for a little while now. To give you a bit of background, it came about because Microsoft Project Desktop as a scheduling tool is very valuable, very mature, and does what it does very well, but it's very difficult to learn. And I know this because we used to teach a course to do it, and it took 2 days. You do a 2 days immersive hands-on course with Project Desktop. Once you get the grip of it, and as most of the Sensei colleagues here today will expect, that it's very useful once you do get around it. So very valuable, however, very difficult to use, and that learning curve was quite steep. So to help mitigate that issue, Microsoft launched Project for the Web as a lightweight and scaled back scheduling solution. And this was always the focus, to make it lightweight and to remove functionality, or to make it very easy to use, and as a end user a tool that they can pick up and run with straight away. So Project for the Web progressed into Microsoft Planner that you may be all now familiar with, now Planner, and there's Planner with premium features. So depending on the licensing, but you have Planner focused as a team task management tool, or even personal task management, with Planner being a little bit more project management functionality added in, things like timeline and dependencies between tasks. But it certainly has always been very low-end maturity versus a solution with Microsoft Project Desktop. It does fall in as part of the Microsoft overall M365 view. Microsoft understands that you do manage and control your work in many different software environments, and it's expected that Planner will fit into that as a potential work option. You can extend on it with some Power BI and some Power Platform. So it's positioned that whilst Planner is still a building block, you can add other blocks to it to make it a more rounded portfolio tool. However, it still has a lot of limitations, but there was some additions, things like Loop and Whiteboard and other elements into Planner to make it more competitive with the lightweight SaaS options that are available. But being part of your 365 environment does make it very accessible, and that was always Microsoft's point. The addition of Copilot recently saw some AI features added to Planner, which have been somewhat useful. The ability to create tasks and make updates to the schedule has been something new and something new to the world of project management, but still obviously in its infancy, and we're still seeing limitations to that feature. Some of the things that you can expect, so there's some good integrations with Planner. They started to build out templates, so you could use some templates for new projects. They added baselines, so you're able to do some tracking with some baseline functionality. I mentioned Copilot. There was the AI Power Assistant. We saw some steps towards having a project manager agent in your Planner, and that agent being able to do some steps for you. Again, first steps towards an AI project management environment, but we can see where Microsoft's kind of goal is there, what they're trying to get to. But again, early days with that project agent doing some steps and providing some text-based responses within a task and the task notes themselves. As I mentioned, some Whiteboard. There was a little bit of portfolio management functionality. That roadmap view, very limited in, I guess, what we're all expecting in terms of portfolio governance and review, but a slight step towards that portfolio environment, and then the ability to add some workflow automation if you wished by adding Power Automate. So to round out the steps to migrate from Project Online to Planner, it's very straightforward. As a very high-level concept, you can download your Microsoft Project Desktop file, the MPP file, from Project Online, knowing that currently those schedules are stored within your Project Online environment. Download them, either each PM does it themselves or do it centrally, and then a once-off upload into Planner to get those schedules into Planner and have a view of the schedule as it's seen in a Planner environment, different to Microsoft Project, and then all the other data that sits in your Project Online will have to be exported and provided as an archive only. So very light, but obviously what you get out the other end is a representation of your schedule in Planner that you'll then need to continue updating in Planner only. The sync with Microsoft Project is then gone, and there is no further functionality around the rest of the Planner toolset to match what you've seen in Project Online. So from a migration pathway, this is very simple, but obviously only gives you a lightweight solution at the end as well. So that covers off Project Server Subscription Edition and Planner. I'll now hand over to JP to talk a bit more about Altus.
Thanks, Phil. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's JP. So for the latecomers who have just joined, I'm the head of customer success at Altus. What I'm going to talk to you about here is a bit of an introduction to Altus for those people who are unfamiliar with our product offering here, and then talk about all the work that we're doing in terms of setting up customers and partners for their migrations from Project Online. So I'll get you to do the clicking, Mr. Phil. Next one. So this on the surface looks to be a very busy diagram, and I'm not going to go through it line by line now, but suffice to say, it's a very comprehensive PPM solution. We leverage all of the components that exist in the modern Microsoft ecoverse. And really the key takeaway that I want people to take from here is it's probably a little bit hard to sort of see it here, but one thing that we do enable people to do is to determine which task engine or scheduling tool is most appropriate for the project, program, or portfolio that they're managing. Project Online and certainly Project Server always tied you directly to Project Desktop, so you could use any scheduling tool you liked as long as it was desktop project. And as Phil was already mentioned, obviously a high barrier to entry and not necessarily going to be the most suitable tool. So we have come up with a schedule agnostic position for Altus, meaning that you can connect to a number of different scheduling tools. We do still support desktop project, and that's a very key thing to sort of note here before I get in and talk about the data migration. A lot of our competitors are seeking to move people away from desktop projects. Altus enables you to continue to use desktop project if you want to. Having said that, if you have a sort of a mixed portfolio and there's a bunch of projects in there that really don't need MS Project, that might be overkill for what they are, you could use something like Planner Premium, Planner Basic, or for teams who are working in that Agile Scrum methodology, they could use something like Jira or Azure DevOps, and it will all get pulled in and coexist within Altus PPM and get all those nice bits of information for reporting and analytics. So that's very, very high level, really just to sort of set the scene around what Altus is. What I really want to do now is talk about the data migration. So next slide. So what are we looking to do here? So there's a lot of information that Project Online and SharePoint Online contain. We're not going to be grabbing all of it, but we're confident that what you're seeing here is the guts of what needs to be pulled out. So when we're talking Project Online, it's the project schedules, it's the actual project records themselves, and all of the resources and their associated information. On the SharePoint Online side of the fence, it is the list-based information such as risks and issues, and any other custom lists that may have been created, and also the documentation as well. And our approach to the migration is to enable all of this information to be extracted and imported into Altus. On the next slide is an example of how we're doing this for schedules. So Microsoft have kindly made some scripts available to us. We're complementing these with our own as well, which enable a nice, easy way to get all the information out of Project Online. And then we use similar scripting to create all the resources, publish the schedules, and then they're available to use in Altus. The key thing here is it's going to retain that connection. So we're not forcing people to move away from Project Desktop. People who have got those schedules and want to continue using Project Desktop, absolutely keep using it. We're just going to create a connection between that schedule and Altus so that the information can flow in for reporting purposes. It's going to be there'll be a similar approach for lists and documents, and we'll talk to that in the next upcoming partner management session that we've got coming up. Next slide, please. So in terms of timing, where are we at? So the schedule migration is very much being rolled out. We're doing an updated version of that to grab in some additional pieces of information, so costs and baselines, and any custom fields that people might have created. And the SharePoint lists data and document build is basically approaching being completed, being put through its testing paces, and we're hoping to have both of those ready for rollout in early March. This will give people a good 6 to 7 month window to run this process, to get their information out of Project Online and into Altus. I think the key message, and I'm sure Phil would agree with me here, is given that hard deadline and the fact that the data will be lost after that date if you don't act now, yeah, do consider this to be a high priority activity if you do have Project Online in place. Next slide. Just by way of a quick round out to my session here, this is a very simple sort of comparator which gives you a sense of what migration considerations and features that you want to be aware of when you're choosing which way you do want to go here. Project Server Subscription Edition may look like an attractive prospect to retain a lot of that Project Online functionality, but there are some key trade-offs which are sort of listed here. And I think for me personally, some of the big ones is that inability to leverage Microsoft Copilot and AI, which is going to be a huge focus for Altus going into the rest of this year. We're starting to leverage it to cut down administration, give people better insights, and Project Server will definitely be a step away from some of those nice features and being able to leverage the modern ecosystem that Microsoft has stood up in the M365 space. And as you can see there, Altus is providing you as much capability as Project Online and actually much more in many cases. That's it from me. Back to you, Phil.
You need to unmute yourself, Phil.
Well, there we go. Always have to have a good unmuting in the meeting. So I was saying there will be a bunch of Altus users within our group today. So just noting from JP's notes that the migration out of Project Online is not required if you are currently using Altus. Obviously, that's for the bulk of data to transfer from the old toolset to the new. You would be using Altus already, but if you still have a connector through to Project Online for your schedules, there is a very straightforward path. We do have a tool available, Altus for Project. It's just that last transition of switching your connection from a Project Online connector to Altus for Project. There might be some minor adjustments required to Altus, and we can help you with aligning the fields and what's coming through into your Altus environment. This should be a very straightforward process. If you are not using Microsoft Project Online as a connector for schedules, then there's no need to worry about this at all. So hopefully that's a quick clarification for those who are currently on Altus. No need to migrate everything from Project Online. It's just the last schedule piece. For the time frame going forward, as JP mentioned, there is a sense of urgency. So we are in February now. So I would hope that your final decision is made for your preferred replacement solution. I would request that if you are going down the Project Server analysis path, that you do that quickly, get the full suite of information and make that decision with your IT team sooner rather than later, because that will have a lot of implication on the time remaining that you have to do that migration. If you rule it out, obviously, then we can discuss other options, either Planner or hopefully the Altus solution. As we roll into March, I think that we must commence with transition activities to minimize risk. If you are leaving it too late, you'll face that risk that there's just not enough duration between now and the 30th September to have all those activities done, to allow for adequate testing and data migration review, and to get live before that date. You'll likely push up against that, and as we know, it's a hard deadline that can't move, so we don't want to be losing any data prior to that. In April to June this year, we expected to be doing the bulk of the transition work. So preparing everything and moving everything across, and getting to that point where we have an environment that is ready for testing and moving into go live. From July, I'm hoping early users or early organizations will be live and done and complete, leaving enough buffer time for anything that goes wrong, and certainly that upskilling on the new platform prior to 30th of September. In August, I would really push and say that your data extraction must be complete, not started, but complete. If that's just doing a final run of current reports and archiving those reports so you have a point in time extract from the tool, or alternatively setting up OData connections to just do a dump from Product Online to get everything out, and then storing that in some form of archive. Sensei can certainly help you define what that archive will look like, but there are limited ways in which we can pull everything from Product Online. And then finally, our current understanding is that it is the entire site collection that will be decommissioned. So there's Product Online and all of the sub-sites that live within your Product Online sites. So all your documents, your risks and issue registers, if they live in sub-sites, they are likely to be not accessible beyond 30th of April either. So there are options to move all of those documents and artifacts out of SharePoint into potentially another SharePoint collection, or again into an archive position. And then as we approach 30 September, we hope to minimize the work that's been done in that September period. Obviously very high risk. If anything slips out, you're going beyond that date. We would have to do early data extraction and then potentially have new data updates that are lost between that data extraction point and your go live. So hoping to really minimize that scenario and also minimize any chance of running two systems in parallel for that crossover period. So hopefully this provides you a really good time frame to both get going. We can help you if there is escalation processes within your organization. We're happy to come and present and walk through this information with your executive team to let them know the time pressure that is available. But certainly our priority is to get activities going, have those early discussions, potentially rule out options, and then help you with the decision for which solution fits best moving forward. We did have some pre-submitted questions, but I will open the floor to other questions now as well. Whilst I give you some time to jump in with any questions, we can quickly run through of these. So the first, can we use these extraction methods to extract data when Reporting Hub stops on the 2nd of April? So we haven't focused on Reporting Hub as part of this session, but April 2nd, there is the first change coming through from Microsoft that will mean our Reporting Hub clients with a SQL database at the back end of their Product Online will be decommissioned. So that's the first point of change through this year. These data migration options are available. Again, if you want to get your data out of Reporting Hub, it needs to be done before the April 2nd date. So for those clients, there is likely 2 data extraction points, one prior to April 2nd, and then a second prior to 30 September. But the extraction process and the migration process remains the same for those clients. Those with Reporting Hub have a bit more flexibility in backup and archiving of data. Second question, does this step from Microsoft indicate that in their current strategy does not cover project management tools anymore? I understand the planner still has a long way to cover to the same ground as project, already has a mature and scalable tool. So I kind of covered this earlier that it's not expected now that planner will catch up to project. We see that as being a big gap and too far away. We think they will continue as 2 different tools. We still believe Microsoft provide the same framework. They give us the building blocks to build up a PPM tool. Product Server wasn't fully functional without configuration. Product Online wasn't fully functional without some configuration. So we expect that to continue, that we have multiple building blocks within the Office 365 environment. And so we're able to build our PPM solution from that. But I do certainly agree that Planner has a long way to go to catch up to a project functionality. No questions coming through, so I'll continue through here. Number 3, I'm very interested in the preparation of the various steps to be followed. So planning for the migration. So yes, I'd hope to be interested too, and yeah, hoping to be on the front foot and preparing as well as you can. We mentioned there some of the timeline of when to get those steps ready, but certainly data completeness, so doing a review with your project managers to make sure the data in the current system is as accurate and complete as possible prior to any migration activities. So hoping to therefore, when you do migrate, making sure that the data that gets migrated is good quality, but certainly there are some steps to get prepared for the technical migration activities as well. Those workshops and collaboration to get a joint understanding of what the migration will look like is what Sensei provides as part of its engagements to transition off these tools. So we would work through those with you. But again, hoping that those planning activities can kick off very quickly. Question 4. Will the custom fields be available in Dataverse? What's the roadmap for Planner Premium? So we understand currently that Planner Premium has been updated to a point where it has a good functionality at the moment, but isn't progressing further. It's not as far advanced as we thought it would be. Earlier in the session, we talked about how when Microsoft released Project for the Web, it was expected to be a starting point that may catch up to meet the functionality of Project Online, but we just haven't seen that. So from what we know at the moment, we understand that Planner is a tool for teams to use and will continue to be that. We certainly haven't seen the eventuation of a new PPM tool or a replacement for Project Online. So it's likely that will be continuous in the same state.
Hey Phil, we had a couple of questions coming through.
Okay.
On the chat side. Would you like me to read them out for you?
Yeah, go for it.
We got one from Darren. Could you please provide any recommendations as to an appropriate resource management and EVM transition tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously resource management is that area where you do require that advanced functionality. It's the high maturity end of this PPM scenario, and particularly EVM adding on to that as well. So that is where we're looking at that advanced high maturity stage transition, which does lead you down the path of Altus. We know that there's limited resource management available in Planner. There is the same resource management functionality as in Project Online in Project Server, but as I mentioned, a lot of implications to moving to Project Server. So for the high maturity and advanced PPM environments, that's where we do see a recommendation for Altus. There are resource management, obviously, capabilities in Altus, and EVM can be aligned both through the use of what's available in Project Desktop, but advanced and enhanced further in Altus. So hopefully that answers your question, Darren, but shout out if you'd like anything else.
We do have another two, yes. So we've got, question accessing data via API for SharePoint project data, risks/issues plus other project data will stock work post 2nd April.
Yes,
will still work post 2nd April.
That's right. So APIs, talking about the OData connections through to Project Online. And again, the 2nd of April date is important for our reporting hub clients who currently use a SQL connection to access their data. But yes, the OData API connection to Project Online will continue as currently available post 2nd of April up until the 30th of September. JP, do you have some more to add?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Michael's second question once you finished.
Go for it. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, so just going to read out Michael's second question. What format is the migration tool going to save the data as locally? Can this be used to migrate into other tools? So we're essentially piggybacking off Microsoft's export process. Microsoft's process basically outputs a whole bunch of JSON files. And more importantly, it outputs the .mpp for the schedule. So we use the .mpp to retain that connection between the project in Altus and the Microsoft project file. The JSON, we use our scripts to basically interrogate that information and then push it into the relevant tables within Dataverse. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Awesome. Thanks, JP. Glad to have you on board because you can talk about this stuff and know far more about it than I do. So the final question here, interested in the life cycle of Microsoft Product Online, the desktop client, sorry, it appears to be unimpacted by the retirement of Product Online. What is the risk of maintaining this dependency? It's old technology, greater than 10 years. So yes, the current understanding is that Microsoft Project Desktop, the desktop scheduling tool, remains unaffected. It is expected to continue. There's been no suggestion of end of life for that tool. As we understand it, it is still a high maturity, highly functional tool that Microsoft does rely on. It is expressed that it's relying on partners such as Sensei and Altus to allow that to continue as part of the PPM toolset, but certainly we expect that to continue. We haven't seen a roadmap for updates for it, but it is likely that the tool in its current situation will continue for the foreseeable future. All right, I will open for any last questions. All right, Jason in the chat. So SharePoint sites created as part of Product Online project creation. Will these sites and their documents be accessible post 30 September? So no, as currently we understand it, they will not be accessible. So as they sit within the site collection, the PWA site collection, and that's determined because as you create a new project, it provisions a project site aligned with that project. It's in your URL, the PWA/URL. It'll be part of that site collection. So those sites will be inaccessible beyond 30 September. So again, our recommendation that all of those document sets and risks and issue registers and whatever else you have stored in those sites must be migrated. There are options to move them to a different site collection, so they still remain as a functional SharePoint location. However, if you need to continue them and continue your interaction and governance of them as part of a PPM tool, this will then fall into the migration of all those items to a future-ready PPM tool. All right, final questions. I'll give you a couple of seconds and then we'll wrap up. But if it's all silent, oh, Darren, would a transcript recording be available for this session so I'm able to share with my colleagues? Absolutely. So Ellie will forward this around. Everything available for that we discussed today is available. And beyond that, we do suggest and hope that you will be in touch. Any further information that's required, please get in touch and reach out. We are happy to run through the 3 options presented today, provide additional information or information specific to your organization. On a weekly basis now, I'm talking with clients who are doing their reviews and walking through these options, again, with the potential to select the correct solution for them. And again, I suggest that you rule out those which are certainly not applicable and then give you a better focus on what your potential future ready state will look like. So yes, please get in touch. Anything else you need, we're happy to provide that. But on that note, thank you everyone for today. Hope it's been informative. If there's anything else or you would like anything from both myself or JP on the Altus side of things, please do reach out. But hopefully everyone enjoys the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you.